Hello friends, and welcome to a virtual gallery activity from the Missouri History Museum. This activity is part of our January Virtual Learning and Homeschool Day. The theme for January is St. Louis Stories, and we're examining stories, oral histories, and lore. My name is Andy, and in this activity I'm going to share with you some ways that Native Americans use stories and oral tradition to preserve their history and their culture. I'm standing here in the Mighty Mississippi exhibit at the Missouri History Museum. This section of the exhibit is called First Peoples World. Here, we can learn about the Mississippian people, whose society flourished by the Mississippi River almost 2,000 years ago. The Mississippians, like most native North American cultures, had no written language. Instead, they depended on oral tradition to pass down their history and culture to new generations. In an oral tradition, stories are told over and over by people within a culture until many members of that group can repeat the story. Now, each storyteller might tell the story in a slightly different way, depending on what words they use or the tone of their voice, but the basic ideas of the story would remain the same. These stories might be the proud history of their people, stretching back generations, but they could also be mythological stories about supernatural events and fantastic creatures. While we don't know exactly what kinds of stories the Mississippians might have told, we can be sure that they were important to their society. Perhaps the adults told children stories about how their ancestors learned to catch fish in the Mississippi River, but also stories about how their ancestors dealt with disaster when the mighty river flooded their homes. Stories like these would have helped the Mississippians understand the world around them, as well as their connection to the generations that came before. Okay, it's time now for a discussion question. Why is oral tradition an important way of preserving culture and history? You can pause the video now if you'd like more time to think and discuss. And when you're ready, you can come with me to our next stop. Next, I'd like to tell you about Black Hawk, a Native American leader in the Sauk and Fox tribe who lived from 1767 to 1838. He lived much of his life in Illinois and spent time in St. Louis as well. His name appears in his own language on the wall behind me in the museum, but out of respect to him and his people, I will not attempt to pronounce it. Like every member of his tribe, Black Hawk listened to oral tradition growing up, and he learned to tell the stories of his people. Now, by this time, the Sauk and Fox had developed their own system of writing, but oral tradition was still an important part of their culture. Black Hawk came into conflict with European settlers in the Black Hawk War of 1832. The settlers wanted Black Hawk to leave his home in Illinois and move west of the Mississippi, according to a treaty which Sauk and Fox leaders had agreed to. But Black Hawk and many others did not agree to the treaty and refused to go. Now, although he fought valiantly for his home, eventually he was defeated and imprisoned at Jefferson Barracks in St. Louis. While in prison, Black Hawk decided to dictate his life story to an interpreter. This story became a book called Autobiography of Black Hawk, embracing the traditions of his nation, various wars in which he has been engaged, and his account of the cause and general history of the Black Hawk War of 1832, his surrender, and his travels through the United States. Also, life, death, and burial of the old chief, together with the history of the Black Hawk War. Kind of a long title, isn't it? Most people today just call it the Autobiography of Black Hawk. But in any case, this book was one of the first autobiographies by a Native American and became very popular as soon as it was published. Black Hawk's story was his oral tradition, dictated to the interpreter. He tells not just his own story, but the stories of others in his tribe who came before. The story is told in his own style and voice, and it contains all the deep and complicated emotions he felt during this period of his life. When you read the book, you can imagine him speaking the words out loud. His book is easy to find online for free, and I would encourage everyone to at least read a page or two so that you get a sense of who Black Hawk was. Now it's time for another discussion question. What are some similarities and differences between a written autobiography and a spoken oral tradition? As before, you can pause the video as you think about the question and discuss. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for this virtual gallery activity. However, please check out our many other activities for the January 2020 Virtual Learning and Homeschool Day, such as more activities like this one, virtual workshops, and craft activities. Thanks for joining me, and remember to keep making history.